Good morning, everyone. So, today is our next part of surface chemistry, and it is last part of this chapter. So, last time we have seen about the preparation of colloids and two properties. One was optical property, that is Tyndall effect, and second was Brownian movement. So, now see next properties. So, let's start. So our next property is charge on colloidal particles. So you know it that colloidal particles always carry an electric charge. It may be either positive or negative. Now see some examples are given here which carry positive charge and negative charge. Now this charge is on the particles of dispersed phase. Dispersion medium also carry charge, but it is diffused, while the charge on the particles of dispersed phase is fixed. So we have many salts which are positively charged, like hydrated metallic oxides. We have alumina, chromic anhydride, ferric oxide, basic dye stuff, for example, methylene blue sol, our blood. Blood has hemoglobin, which is a complex of iron and protein, and iron is a positively charged ion here, so blood carry a positive charge. Oxides, for example, titanium dioxide. Second, we have negatively charged salts, for example, metal salts, copper, silver, gold salts. Metallic sulfides, for example, arsenious sulfide, antimony sulfide, cadmium sulfide salts, in which salt particles, particles of dispersed phase carry negative charge. Next is acidic dye stuff, for example, eosine, Congo red salts, and salts of starch, gum, gelatin, clay, charcoal. They carry negative charge. Then we come to theories of origin of charge on colloidal particles. So how the charge is developed or generated? So there are many theories, which either it may be only one theory or more theory because of which charge arises. So the first theory is due to electron capture by Sol particles during electrodispersion of metals. We see that the metallic salts are prepared by electrodispersion by Bragg arc method, in which very high temperature is reached. So in this case, it is believed that salt particles capture electron from the dispersion medium and they get negatively charged. And the second, which is the most accepted theory, it is a preferential adsorption of ions, which is based on adsorption theory. And this theory assumes that Sol particles acquire positive charge or negative charge by preferential adsorption of positive or negative ions at their surface. So when two or more ions are present in the dispersion medium, preferential adsorption of the ion common to colloidal particle usually takes place. See example, suppose we add silver nitrate solution, few drops, to potassium iodide solution in a test tube. So what happens? A small amount of silver iodide get precipitated. Now in solution there is a small amount of precipitate which is of silver iodide, and we have excess of potassium iodide solution. So in solution there is iodide ion, negative ion, and potassium positive ion. So in precipitate we have two ions, silver and iodide. So in solution the common is iodide ion. So the precipitate of silver iodide will absorb iodide ion from solution because it is common to it, and thus it get negatively charged. And when the particles which were precipitated get negatively charged, they repel each other and we get colloidal sol of silver iodide. Similarly, if we add Ki solution in a small amount into a test tube which contains a solution of silver nitrate, then we get precipitate of silver iodide. But now in the solution, concentration of silver ions, which is common to AgI, is more. So now the Sol particles will preferably absorb silver cation because it is common to it. So it gets positively charged, and dispersion medium becomes negatively charged. So the development of charge occurs due to adsorption of ions in preference to that ion which is common to the Sol particle. And because of this charge, the Sol particles repel each other and get dispersed in the medium, and we get a colloidal Sol. And dispersion medium has equal and opposite charge. It is obvious. Then we come to next part, which is Helmholtz electrical double layer and zeta potential. So what is this zeta potential and what is electrical double layer? So as I have told you that the particles of Sol or dispersed phase absorb either negative ion or positive ion in preference, and thus they become negatively or positively charged. And around this layer the counter ions get accumulated, forming a second layer. So we have a two layer or double layer of charges. So this combination of the two layers of opposite charges around the colloidal particle is known as Helmholtz electrical double layer, and the first layer is firmly held. It is called fixed layer, while the second layer is mobile and it is called diffuse layer. And the potential difference between the fixed layer and the diffuse layer of opposite charges is known as electrokinetic potential or zeta potential. See this figure, it will be very clear to you. Now suppose we have a negatively charged Sol particle, Can see here. So now on this negatively charged Sol particle, a layer of positive ions get adsorbed formally. So it is the first layer, or it is called Stern layer. It is fixed formally, and around it we have a diffuse layer of counter ions, which are negative ions. So the electric potential develops between diffuse layer and this fixed layer, which is known as Stern layer, and we call it zeta potential. Potential difference also develops between the fixed layer of the positive ions and negative charge on the surface of Sol particle, and this is known as Stern potential. So we have two kinds of potential here, but in your course it is zeta potential, which has been asked in your examination many times. The next property is electrophoresis. Now this involves a movement of Sol particles under the applied electric field. We know that the colloidal particles carry either positive charge or negative charge, and they can show movement under applied electric field. So when we apply an electric field, the Sol particles start moving towards respective electrode, and this is known as electrophoresis. And its consequence is that suppose a Sol particle carry a negative charge, then it will move towards positive electrode, that is cathode, anode, and it will get precipitated, because at the respective electrode, means if it carry positive charge, it will move towards negative plate, and when it reach at that plate, that electrode, its charge get discharged, and because of charge is removed, the particles have a force of attraction and get coagulated. So by this we can also cause coagulation of colloids. Second is electroosmosis. If we use here in this, consider this figure, if I use here one semi-permeable membrane at this place, then what will happen? Then Sol particle cannot move from one to other direction. Or suppose we have a SPM here, and one side we have a pure solvent, and other side we have colloidal sol. In that case, the colloid particles cannot move because of SPM. Then solvent, that is dispersion medium, will start moving in the opposite direction, and this is known as electroosmosis. So molecules of dispersion medium are allowed to move under influence of electric field. Then we next come to coagulation or flocculation. Now you know that because of similar charge on colloidal particles, they remain suspended, dispersed, and do not form clump or coagulate. But if we remove this charge, then what will happen? These particles will come close and form clump or coagulate. So the process which involve coming together of colloidal particles so as to change into large size particles which ultimately settles as a precipitate or float on the surface is known as coagulation or flocculation. It is generally achieved by addition of electrolyte or there are more many ways. जैसा आप देखते हैं मिल्क, if you add lemon juice or tartaric acid or citric acid in the milk, what happens? It get coagulated. Or when we don't heat milk, then bacteria develop into it, lactobacillus, and they produce lactic acid that cause coagulation of milk. जिसको आप कहते हैं कि दूध फट गया, तो फटना है क्या? It is actually coagulation because milk is also a colloid, and when we change pH of milk by adding acid, then it get coagulated. So next we come to flocculation value or coagulation value. It is the minimum amount of an electrolyte that must be added to 1 liter of a colloidal sol so as to bring about complete coagulation or flocculation is known as coagulation or flocculation value. So smaller is the flocculation value of an electrolyte, greater is the coagulating power of that electrolyte. Now, the coagulation of lyophobic salts can be carried out in many ways. Some of ways are given here. The first is electrophoresis, अभी आप पीछे देख चुके हैं. Second is by mixing two oppositely charged salts. It is also a very common method. If you have two salts and they carry negative charge, one carry negative charge and other carry positive charge, and we mix them, then they get coagulated. कभी आपने यूज़ किया हो इंक पेन and you mix two different colored ink together. Suppose आपने ब्लू इंक और ब्लैक इंक इनको आपस में मिक्स कर दिया, या आपने एक ब्लैक इंक वाले पेन में ब्लू इंक फिल कर दी फाउंटेन पेन में, तो क्या होता है कि जो इंक की प्रॉपर्टी होती है मीन्स उसका कलर वो सब चला जाता है. क्यों? बिकॉज इंक इज ऑल्सो ए कोलाइड and blue colored ink and black colored ink, they carry opposite charges. So when we mix these two type of inks, or you fill a pen having some black color with the blue color ink, they get coagulated and lose their property. Next is by addition of electrolyte. When we add excess of an electrolyte, the coagulation of colloid occurs, and very common example is milk. We coagulate milk to make many milk products like chena, paneer. Next is by persistent dialysis. If you perform dialysis for prolonged time, then salt particles will come close and they get coagulated. Then we come to next part, which is the Hardy-Sulzay rule. It is very important and it is asked many times in examination. So it show the coagulating power of an electrolyte and says that coagulating power of an electrolyte increases rapidly with the increase in the valency of cation or anion of active ion. Now suppose we have a negative salt and we add here ferric chloride, then it is the positive ion, that is ferric ion, that is responsible for causing coagulation. Similarly, if we have a positive salt, say blood, and we add here ferric chloride, then it is the negative ion, that is chloride ion, that will cause coagulation. So for negatively charged salt particle, the coagulating power of the electrolyte will depend upon the charge of cation. You can see here AlCl3, BaCl2, NaCl. In these three, aluminum ion is having valency of 3. Then we have barium with valency 2, and then sodium as a monovalent cation. So for the same salt, for the same negative salt, the coagulating power of aluminum ion or salt having aluminum ion will be highest. Similarly, for a positive salt, the coagulating power depends upon the valency of negative ion. Suppose you have phosphate, sulfate and chloride, then phosphate ions, since it has 3 valency, has the maximum coagulating power. The next part is the gold number and protection of colloid. We know that lyophobic salts are very easily precipitated or coagulated, whereas lyophilic salts are not easily coagulated. So if we mix some amount of lyophilic salt into a lyophobic salt, then it prevents the coagulation of lyophobic salt from an electrolyte. Now this action is known as protection of colloid. So covering up of lyophobic particles by lyophilic particles is known as its protective action, and such colloids are called protective colloid. And the gold number is the way to express the protection power of a protective colloid. You can see here we have a lyophobic particle, and at the surface of this particle lyophilic particles get adsorbed, and thus they protect the lyophobic particle from the action of electrolyte. So gold number shows the protecting power of a lyophilic salt. So it can be defined as, so gold number is defined as the amount of protective salt in milligram that will prevent the coagulation of 10 ml of gold solution or gold salt on the addition of 1 ml of 10% NaCl solution. मतलब कि अगर आपने गोल्ड सॉल्ट के 10 ml लिए हैं, तो उस 10 ml को अगर हम उसमें ऐड कर रहे हैं 10% NaCl का 1 ml, तो उससे प्रेसिपिटेशन से बचाने के लिए जितना होगा, जितना अमाउंट हम ऐड करेंगे लाइफलिक सॉल्ट का मिलीग्राम में, वो उसका होगा गोल्ड नंबर. सो स्मॉलर इज द गोल्ड नंबर, देन ग्रेटर विल बी द protecting power of lyophilic colloid. Then we come to emulsion. So emulsions are the colloids having dispersed phased and dispersion medium both as liquid. So a colloidal dispersion of one liquid into another immiscible liquid is known as emulsion. For example, milk, sodium salts, vanishing cream, etc. Then we have type of emulsion. We have two types of emulsion. One is oil in water type, where oil is dispersed phase and water is the dispersion medium. For example, milk. Second is water in oil type, where water is the dispersed phase and oil is the dispersion medium. For example, butter and vanishing cream, etc. Then we come to emulsifying agent or emulsifier. Actually, the emulsions are not very stable. Suppose if you have water and you mix some drop of oils and shake it vigorously, it will form emulsion. But if you keep it for 30 minutes, then you find that we have two separate layers. One is of water and other is of oil. But it means it is not a stable emulsion. But if you add some substance which prevent the formation of two layer and it remains as a emulsion for long duration, that substance will be known as emulsifying agent or emulsifier. So emulsion of oil in water are unstable, and for stabilization of an emulsion, a third component called emulsifying agent is usually added. The emulsifying agent forms an interfacial film between suspended particle and the medium. So the principal emulsifying agent for O by W means oil in water type emulsions are protein, gum, natural and synthetic soap, etc. And for water in oil type, we have heavy metal salt or fatty acids, means again soap, long chain alcohols, lambic or charcoal, etc. Then we come to next part. It is cleaning action of soap. How soap cleans the cloth. So you have learned it in class 10th already. So again listen here. We know that soap has a long hydrophobic tail of hydrocarbon and a polar head of carboxylate ion. So this long hydrocarbon chain, which is hydrophobic, it is lipophilic. Lipophilic means which have attraction for water. So when we add dirty cloth in the soap solution, what happens? It forms a micelle around the dirt or oily things by its hydrophobic chain and dissolve the oil into it. But the whole micelle is water soluble because its surface area is hydrophilic. So when we rinse the cloth, the micelle along with the dissolved oil, grease and dirt get rinsed away and thus our cloth get cleaned. You can see this figure given here. It is grease or oil droplet having dirt and we see here formation of micelle around this. The next is application of colloids. So we have many applications of colloids. Some are listed here. One is rubber plating, sewage disposal, smoke screen preparation, water purification, cleaning action of soap. In medicines, most of the medicines are taken in the colloid form. formation of delta, photography, artificial rain. These are examples of its application. So thank you. This chapter is over here, and you may ask your doubt by various mediums, by Google Classroom or WhatsApp. Thank you.